All right, the project happening right now is I plan on gaining access to the contactors that are inside here and adding economizers to them, because all these Tesla packs have contactors without economizers, so you can't keep them on. We can't just send them 12 volts to turn them on nonstop because they overheat. The electronics inside the battery pack, inside the BMS, will use pulse width modulation to turn them on and off so they don't overheat. But I'm not going to be going through all that work trying to trigger the contactors through the BMS. We control the BMS, we turn it on, but we actually control the contactors manually. So same thing on the other T-Rex, and that's what we're doing here. So first steps, I unscrewed all of these. I haven't seen any videos online really gaining access. I just see clips where they take apart a battery pack, but nothing detailed like this. So hopefully this will help somebody. I took a razor and I cut the silicone sealant all around here. I just cut all this off because I wasn't sure if it was only this piece here. I wasn't sure if it was only attached by these screws. It looks like it does slip underneath this top layer. So all of these screws look like they're gonna have to come out as well. So that's what I'm gonna do now. And so far, this is what I've seen of these battery packs, is this is glued on there really good. So I have to be careful not to tweak this and bend this too much because I do want it to go down again. I'll have to put another layer of silicone sealant underneath this. But yeah, it looks like you take those out, and right now I am just easily just levering this up right here. All right, my first boo-boo. This is on there really good. I just broke that tab right there. Yeah, I cut this with a razor all along the edge. Didn't seem to do anything. So I tried starting here at the corner with a hammer and a flathead screwdriver and got underneath it and then pried and broke that tab right there. So far not the end of the world because I can silicone that and all this is gonna be covered and secured, but yeah, I gotta be careful with this. I'll keep digging and see what I can do. All right, making really good progress. So I've got gaps there. It's coming up, you can see it moving. I just gotta keep going one over the other and going down, chiseling these up. So far it's coming out. Okay, this is all broken. The seal's broken here. I had to take out the extra screw here and the one over here, and I'm gonna have to get some needle nose pliers and just gently bend this up a little bit more to get this thing out. So I'm gonna do that right now. All right, I've got that up. You can see the BMS board right in there. And then under this little piece of cardboard is the contactors. So I can't lift this piece out yet, and I suspect it's because they are attached to the contactor. I'm probably going to have to lift up that piece of cardboard and unbolt the bars that go to this right there. But pretty cool to see it all. All right, got to the contactors. They are right there. I just checked and they do have voltage. I haven't pulled the safety connect or the safety plug that's up front yet, which I'm sure a lot of you would freak out about, but I'm being careful. So I'm going to do that next, and then I will be able to get in there and unscrew the nuts off the contactor so I can take this piece out, and then I'll have access to the contactors. I just ordered 6 brand new ones, so I'm probably going to put 2 brand new ones in there just so they're good and I know they're new. But that's coming up next. All right, here's the fuse in here. I didn't realize that these are safety Torx. So I gotta go to the store and hopefully find some safety Torx to get that open. All right, I got the security Torx bits that I needed from Home Depot and took off, unscrewed all of those. They unscrewed fine, no problem there. But this sticky stuff was difficult. I thought it was gonna be more like the, I don't know how to say it, but butyl. It's like this rubberized caulk that they used on the Rav4 battery pack. So I thought all this was going to be more like that, and this does seem like it has like a rubbery texture, but this stuff does not want to give. So I left this little access point because I planned on, if I was ever on the road with the T-Rex and I needed to check the fuse or if something was wrong, then I could just take the cover off. But I had to stick the long screwdriver up under here, over here, to pry the corner up to get this thing out. So I'm really glad that I mean, I definitely had to do this, but I'm glad I figured this out now rather than later if I was on the road. Because once this is all together, and this is going to be a fiberglass wall right here, so there's no way I was going to be able to get to that. So when I put all this back together, I'm going to use the butyl, again, however you say it. I think it's B-U-Y-T-L-E, maybe? I don't know, something like that. And it's resealable, so it's always sticky, it's always gummy, and I thought that's what this was, but evidently it's different. So I'm going to test this, and then I'll probably get my rubber gloves out, my electrician's gloves, pull the fuse, and then I'll be good. And then I'll continue work on the contactors. All right, very easy. It came out. It is a 13 millimeter and just 2 screws. I use my gloves and pull that thing out. Here is the fuse, if anybody is interested. Kind of cool, definitely big. And then there is a Tesla logo that I didn't know was even there till just now. Not too many people probably see that logo. All right, now I'm going back over to the contactors. All right, got those 2 nuts off. For some reason, the tolerance on the right one is very tight. I had to wiggle that and maneuver that and try to get that one as high as I could. So now it's loose, it's off. You can see the tolerance is looser on this one, and it still wouldn't come out. So then I was looking around, just gently tugging, and there's one bolt down there that I'm gonna have to get a ratchet wrench to get. That looks like just a ground strap. It attaches to this metal here. So I'm gonna do that, and then it looks like I'll probably have this whole piece out and I can get the contactors replaced. All right, so this is getting a little crazy. I'll see if I can get some of this on tape. They, in a nutshell, really don't want you to fuck with this back. So these data plugs right here are actually glued into their socket on this side. So don't really focus. There you go. You can see the glue. Both of them are glued in. And there is 0 slack in order to pull these up. I'll probably have to cut that zip tie there in order to get them up. No big deal. But on this side, again, let's see if I can get in here. I couldn't get that nut that I showed you right down there. So I got the other side where it attaches over here. And I had a very small area to work with, but I was able to get in there and get that nut. It's a 10 millimeter. And now it won't come up because there are a bunch of wires connected to this, and I'm gonna have to get in there carefully and see, like they have all of these. Man, this doesn't seem like it's focusing. They're all very soft, delicate feeling wires, so I have to be very careful, and I'm gonna keep working on it and get this thing off. I will persevere, but they definitely don't make it easy. Holy shit. More to come. All right, I really tried not to, but I had to cut pretty much every one of these zip ties in order to get this sucker up and out of here. Man, they really don't think you're ever going to touch this. And let's see, I can show you. So it's mostly loose now, except for that right side, because those connectors are glued together. And of course, if you're demolishing the pack, if you're ripping everything apart and selling modules or something, this is no problem. You don't give a shit. But I'm trying to be delicate because I want to keep everything here working as it is now. Yeah, so they just don't make it difficult. So finally get everything apart, and hoping I only have to do this once ever. See, one of the culprits right here, which is the contactor wires, and that's where it goes to the board, which I'll be disconnecting and pulling those contactors out. This, I'm not sure what this board is right here, but that goes, oh, what's it say actually? Oh, it's a pre-charge resistor, it says. Pretty nice when the board says what it is. And I can't really, I guess I could probably get to it, but it's kind of tight because it's right underneath that, what's that, the current sensor, I think. So I can probably get to that. And then I'll be able to just swing this off to the right and they give me a little more space. So yeah, let me try that and I'll keep working. All right, contactors have been freed from their prison. Just got these guys out. Getting this stuff, pull them out was fine once you got all the case open and everything. For these nuts right here, these little tiny guys, these are 8mm, so you'll need an 8mm socket for that. I used an angle one here, whatever that thing's called. And then, so the left one came out fine. There's lots of play in this all the way up. This one, you'll have to be careful because you obviously don't want to damage the current sensor in there. So what I did is lifted it up and kind of pushed it back. And I just got it up enough that I could get the contactor up over the threads and pull it out. So now time to get these things out of my way and put new ones in. All right, before I drop these guys in and not throw these away, but get these out of my way, I thought I'd show you the differences between these two contactors because I didn't know this before I started doing all of this with the first T-Rex, and I kind of wish there was somebody out there to help educate me, but there really wasn't any info. So this is a typical contactor. This does not have an economizer. This one is made by Gigavac, and I thought it would have mounting tabs for the economizer because I kind of thought about just transferring an economizer over to this one and not having to remove the whole thing. But when I saw it from the top, I realized they didn't have the tabs. They're a little different. And this is a typical contactor with an economizer. I'll cover the wires here in a second. But this little box here on the back is the economizer. And what that does, in a nutshell, because I'm not an expert in all the stuff, but what it does in a nutshell is adjust the voltage to hold the position in the contactor. Because it's holding the position under duress, it's a lot of voltage, a lot of current usually, they can definitely get hot. And I didn't realize that this one, you could feed 12 volts, and this little box in here will do all of the work. It'll modulate the voltage just enough to keep this open, or closed, well, closed or open. But so once you give it power, and maybe after an hour, maybe less, maybe more, it starts to get hot, this will adjust the temperature, adjust the voltage going to the coil inside in the contactor so it doesn't get as hot. And the difference with these is because this one does not have an economizer, the board inside there does all of that work. So that's the main difference. So if you are ever going to replace these yourself, make sure you get the ones without the economizers if you plan on using this in another car, in the same exact setup. So if you have a Tesla and the contactors just went bad, you want a contactor just like this. They're very, very common. They're actually easier to find this way as opposed to this way. So just buy one of those. They can range from, if you're good for watching deals, I've got them as cheap as 30 bucks. A lot of places will try to gouge you if you're really desperate. You can pay 100, 200 bucks for one of these. Don't pay that unless you absolutely have to. So yeah, that's what these things usually go for. These guys, I'm always watching for deals because same thing, they can go for just stupid money. This one here is a slightly different version, but it doesn't matter. So this one has the white wires here, which is just basically a signal to go to like the next contactor in the line or just something else. I don't have a use for these. I don't know really why they're here, but they seem to be a better deal because people see them and like, oh, that's not right. That's different. So I'm just gonna snip these, tape them up. This won't be useful to me, but it's gonna operate in the same fashion. So I'm just gonna give this 12 volts. So in my application, I needed these because I didn't want to deal with doing a PMS or what is it, a pulse width modulator inside the controller. I didn't want to deal with all of that. And then also, in order to get the Tesla battery to see all of the specs that it wants to see before it'll open these contactors, that's a whole lot more work that I didn't want to put into it. It's the same thing I did with the T-Rex that's over there. This is fine. This way I can control these contactors with just 12 volts. I can have multiple kill switches in place. It's super easy. Like Jack from EVTV went through all the work, and he has a controller that will manipulate these as they are. You wouldn't have to open all this, but it's like $3,000 or something, and we're going to spend significantly less than that, just hundreds instead. So yeah, I know this is getting kind of long here now, but these are the differences between contactors here. So depending on what you want, what you're planning on doing with the pack after you replace these, you might want the OEM contactors or something similar. There's a bunch of different brands out there, but they all do the same exact thing. Or if you're doing something like I am, where you want to open and close the contactors here, maybe you're going to use this battery pack for home storage, and you want to open them and manipulate them as you see fit, then you're going to want to use these. For the leads out, I'm going to have to figure that out still. I probably will just have them come out the side and then caulk around all this and close everything up. I think that's probably what I'm going to do. So yeah, that's where I'm going to leave this for now. Then I'm going to finish putting this back together and continue on with the video. Thanks for letting me rant and hopefully help you guys. See ya. All right, contactors are in. The new ones are in. That went fine. No problem there at all. And then I have this wire taped up and ready. It's going to be coming out here, and then I'll just make sure I bend this a little bit to notch for these wires, and then just silicone everything. This is all going to be inside. It's not going to have any moisture going to it whatsoever, so I'm not worried about it. If you've seen my other T-Rex project that's buried under there, under stuff, in that job, what I did is I ran wires to an unused pin on the data harness. It's a different data harness, the same board, pretty much the same board, probably a slightly different revision, but an older revision. But I used a spare pin, and that's how I got out of the pack to keep everything weather tight. But in this case, sure, it might not be quite as clean, and it's not really good pinching wires like this, but I'll make sure that like I said, notch that out, and I'll have these come out, and then I'll have full control of these contactors. In here, in case you're curious, that is where the contactor pin is. So with the old contactors that I just pulled out, that's where those go. And that's what the BMS looks like right in here. So far, from the two packs that I've seen with my Rav4 and this pack, they look very close to the same. Maybe some of the chips are different. That's not my thing. Even down to the notch and the shape, they're both the same. The pin there, the connector there, that's all the same. I mean, I don't know if the pins are the same, but the connector is the same exact connector. All of these look like the same thing. This one says 2014. I don't remember what mine said. I'd have to look at the videos, but mine was probably 2011, 12, and I'm sure they've made some chip upgrades since then. But all right, so I guess that's it for this segment. Now I'm going to start buttoning things back up. All right, I got everything pretty much back together. Unfortunately, I realized that I am out of my caulk that I used for the T-Rex, the other one. This one doesn't say that butyl anywhere on it, but it seemed like pretty much the same thing. It was really sticky and it's sealed, it's watertight, but it definitely had some give, so I could take off the pack and then take off the lid of the pack and then reconnect it. So contactors are in. This bolt over here, it was a 10 millimeter, was a bitch. That's you really have barely any room in there to manipulate the ratchet wrench. So but I was able to get that in there. I have a couple bolts just holding this all in place right there. I'm gonna have to caulk this once I get some more. Unfortunately, working late at night when stores are closed is kind of a pain in the butt sometimes. And I also soldered the 2 wires together, or the 4 wires coming off of the contactors, to drop them out down just the 2, because I realized I had planned on bringing them out here, but that's where it is the thickest, so that would not have worked. So I'm going to bring it out over here and just, again, make sure I notch that a little bit. Another thing I didn't cover was, that I did off camera, was vacuum in here with my shop vac many times. I wanted to make sure I didn't leave any debris in there, definitely any metal shavings or anything. I didn't cut or drill anything, so there shouldn't be any, but there was lots of rubber on these little pieces that were in there. So gently vacuum that out if you're going to attempt anything like this. So right now, what I have is manual control of the contactors inside there, and I have the HV line here connected to my meter here, and you can see that, of course I had this all set up. These moved a little bit. There, 381 volts. So I have manual control of the contactors in here, which is what I needed for the T-Rex V2. So if you guys have any questions, let me know. Also, I put the fuse back up there up front. That's how I was able to get voltage back here. But yeah, oh, I forgot to put these caps back on. That's one thing I was going to mention is, I know I didn't pull a fuse initially, but I've seen a lot of videos where people have taken these apart, and I knew not to pry down. So I put my screwdrivers away. But if you're going to pry and take this off, because it's all open, I knew there was a lot of circuit boards and the contactors in there. If you stick your screwdriver in there, don't pry down, because you could definitely touch something that's not good and end your life. So I just tapped along the edge and then pried up to get it off. So that's why I felt pretty good, pretty confident about doing all this stuff. But yeah, if you try this, hopefully this helps you. And sorry if it's a long video, but I wanted to be as detailed as possible. Thanks, and have a good night.